if you don't get vaccinated, you're antisocial. This is what the Dutch Prime Minister and Health Minister told us. You don't get vaccinated just for yourself, but also for others. You do it for all of society. That's what I said. Today, this turned out to be complete nonsense. In a COVID hearing in the European Parliament, one of the Pfizer directors just admitted to me, at the time of introduction, the vaccine had never been tested on stopping the transmission of the virus. This removes the entire legal basis for the COVID passport. The COVID passport that led to massive institutional discrimination as people lost access to essential parts of society. I find this to be shocking, even criminal. Please watch the video until the end.
We may not watch it to the end.
De volgende vraag
waar ik een
duidelijk antwoord op wil. And I will speak in English so there are no misunderstandings.
Oh, there's going to be misunderstandings.
Was the Pfizer COVID vaccine tested on stopping the transmission of the virus before it entered the market?
He could have stopped there.
Please say it clearly. If yes, are you willing to share the data with this committee? And I really want a straight answer, yes or no, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
He's looking forward to it.
Regarding the question around, did we know about stopping immunization before it's entered the market? No. We have to really move at the speed of science to really understand what is taking place in the market.
We move at the speed of science to understand what's taking place in the market. Hey, if you're someone who took that jab, that answer might piss you off just a tad. We move at the speed of science, and apparently the speed of the market moves faster than the speed of science. It seems to me that the speed of science is the speed that is required to make sure things are scientifically defensible, justifiable, and effective. This was, we move at the speed of science. What did she say about the market? It doesn't matter. What is being quite clearly illustrated in real time is that people have been hoodwinked with the most important thing that God has given them, their own bodies. I feel hoodwinked. I feel violated. And I now see members of Pfizer. I tweeted out to Albert Bourla, CEO of Pfizer. You better have a damn good explanation for this, Al, Bert, whatever you want to go by. You better have a damn good explanation for this. Because when you said back on April 1st, 2021, in a tweet, 100% effective against transmission in tests in South Africa or wherever it was, those words meant something unless it was an April Fool's joke. And if it's an April Fool's joke, enjoy living with that joke for the rest of your life. Oh, we moved at the speed of science. But she's got a very intellectual British accent. So being lied to in Brit is better than being lied to in other dialects. Hoodwinked with our own bodies. Okay. Let me see that we're live everywhere. Nick's in the backdrop, and I'm not going to make Nick wait. He showed up on time, which is fantastic. And I don't know how much time I have because I don't. The 8:30 time slot is an odd time slot for me. Kids aren't in bed. Mom's trying to put them to bed, and it might not work. But this is going to be phenomenal, people. Yeah. There's been a little bit of drama. There's been a little upheaval on the interwebs of the law tubes. The Pope. Still don't. I'm not sure I get the reference of the Pope, but I get the reference of the schnoz. My competitor, I should say, yeeted from the interwebs, if only for 36 hours. And an amazing thing is people mobilize, people express discontent, and then things seem to change. But we're going to get the full story of it because Twitter's one thing. Steven Crowder, am I going to get in trouble for saying it? Half Asian lawyer from Crowder is another. There's layers to this tiramisu, and not all layers are equally thick, but we're going to get to it. Okay, I see someone is in full, I will say, costume.
You don't understand the Pope? You don't understand the Pope?
I sort of get it. Okay, so we're going to get into a lot of stuff tonight. How did you get to the Pope?
I don't even remember. I know.
I know the Pope's hat. I saw a movie called Eurotrip, a documentary. But
oh,
how did the Pope even become a thing with you?
I mean, the lore is deep. I don't. I actually do not remember where I became the Pope. Now that you mention it, it's completely lost on me where that started. Somebody probably knows where that is, and if they do, they should remind me because I don't.
I'm seeing in on Rumble. I'm seeing Pope rackets. The Pope is here. Unbreaded. I get. I never wanted the jab and will never get it. Well, thanks, Daisy, but I'm 2 shots behind you. No pun intended. All right, Nick. First of all, we've done this before. We know each other. We've known each other for a while.
Yeah.
How's life been for the last week?
A little stressful.
When people talk about, I won't put dollar figures on things, although some of this stuff is public. When you talk about decisions that, cost people money, that cost people undue stress, people don't need to imagine too much to understand. Overnight, it's not your only source of revenue. It's not your, I don't know if it's it doesn't matter. It's a source of revenue.
We can talk numbers if you want. By the way, I'm very open about them. So
okay, but
it's up to you.
You share what you're comfortable with, but the bottom line, some of this stuff is public. So people who know that you're the grifter of grifters. I don't know if you won the grifties yet, but people use the term grift as a joke to replace the word hard work. You stream, I don't know, 8 hours a day sometimes. I know you have 5 or 6 kids. I'm not sure how many. I think your streaming might be an addiction to get away from the kids. It's an easy way to avoid. But
shh. It's just work, Viva.
Yeah, I got 3, and I can sort of understand now. But it's meaningful. And when something hits the fan like it did last week, and overnight, poof, it's an expensive decision you made.
Yeah. So a couple things. I won't get into specific numbers, but I mentioned this figure on, I think, Megan Fox's stream. Over the past 365 days from YouTube, I have, and again, this is all public on Playboard or whatever. The numbers are a little more specific, but you also have to do a lot of math to get to them. But just for sake of convenience, I made over $500,000.
Gross. It's not net. It's gross. Or it might be gross.
On what it's pre-tax. Pre-tax.
Okay.
Pre-tax.
Pre-expense, whatever your expenses are. I mean, I see some bottles of whiskey on a painting behind you, so that might be a business expense. But yeah, it's meaningful money. I mean, very meaningful money. More money than I've ever made in my entire life by orders of magnitude. And it's so when that happens, and all of a sudden YouTube goes, you go, okay, now what? Right? Like, what is the answer to that? It's a terrifying moment. And the funny thing is, because I was multi-streaming to Rumble and Odyssey, you can actually see it in real time. You can watch the ashen look on my face. I did not expect to be deleted from YouTube mid-stream. It's a lot. Now, before people get too crazy about the numbers, because I know the numbers can make some people very uncomfortable, and they should make people uncomfortable. It's also why I've never asked anybody to send a super chat ever or anything like that. It's just, people choose to participate, and that's on them. If they want to do it, great. If they don't, cool. Like I do my show, and I love it very much. But remember that the Rittenhouse trial and the Amber Heard trial were both in that time period, and both of them had massive streams going through that with tons of participation. Rittenhouse, you were at 150,000 people watching live, give or take. I think it might have been 125.
It was 132 for Rittenhouse, if I remember right. And then I had one stream go bigger during Depp, which is kind of unbelievable. But did have a stream go like to 134 or 138, something like that for Depp.
It's nuts. And I mean, the numbers are astronomical. And the amazing thing is, we're both lawyers, but we've found something of a niche on this YouTube's where you don't beg, you don't ask, you don't guilt. people want to, when I was doing the Ottawa convoy, we had 55,000 people watching live at one point, biggest month ever, but it was just providing something that people wanted and they were happy to support it. But all that to say, Nick, I mean, it's funny in retrospect because you got your channel back and we're going to get into the details, but someone flipped a switch and said that source of revenue is shut off for now. You've gone one step too far. I didn't see that. I think I saw the moment, but then I saw some other moments. But I mean, what does that feel like? Whether or not people think you deserve it, what does that feel like? Deserve it or not?
It's horrifying. And it's not the first, second, and third things you think of are not the income, actually. Believe it or not, I think there's probably a little bit of arrogance to anybody who will sit and live stream to a bunch of people all the time. Like that shouldn't be controversial. We try not to be, right? But it's like every time you turn on the camera, thousands of people tune in, it goes to your head a little bit, okay? And you get kind of confident in your ability to succeed at this type of thing. And there's other places. So the income isn't actually the first thing because you go, okay, you're building up backups, whatever. You're going to land. You kind of prepare mentally for the possibility of this happening. What the first thing that came to my mind was, this is my thing. This is mine. I built this. YouTube didn't build this for me. In fact, I think I spent the majority of my time on YouTube fighting tooth and nail against the algorithm, against the wrong think designation, against strikes, against everything. I carved this out by just being here and doing the work and somehow finding a formula that people want to tune into. I built that audience and I can't tell them what happened. I can't talk to them. I can't do anything to get back to my thing. It's gone. And that's the real terror of the moment is, okay, my work is gone. 5 years for me.
And I mean, it's interesting you say it. Some people might not believe you. They say the money is the most important thing, where I can sort of appreciate it's not. You're confident in your abilities to make money as an entrepreneur wherever you're going to go. You've lost your audience. You've lost not your reach, but you've lost your connection to the world. And, we might get into some other stuff later, but where I say you're booted from Twitter. So within short order, you're booted from Twitter. Okay, fine. You can go, you still have YouTube. You're
Right.
booted from YouTube. Within short order, you're also booted from Stitch, or what is it called? Switch or Stitch?
Twitch.
I'm an idiot.
No, you're not. If you don't know what Twitch is, you're a well-adjusted human being. You got that way wrong.
First of all, I'm not, but I still don't know what Twitch is. I mean, I know what Twitch is. I was watching Lilo and Stitch. So, okay, but let's get into this. You within the Switch, but people don't appreciate by the time you get your channel nuked, unless you've gone and done broadcast. I don't want to use any hyperbolic examples, but live streaming committing crimes. Unless you do something like that, by the time you get your channel struck, shut down, nuked, you've actually committed 4, and I'll put them here, violations. You get your warning, and then you get your 3 strikes, and then you're out.
And your warning never goes away, ever.
Your warning never, people should appreciate this. The warning never goes away. So once you get your warning, you're down to 3 strikes forever. Strikes evaporate after whatever period of time.
90 days. Can we talk real quick about what my warning is? Because I want people to know how ridiculous
not quick.
These things are.
We're going to go into it. So you had your 4 strikes. Your first, from what I understand, was repeating something Joe Biden said about COVID. It doesn't matter what it was, and I'm not scared of it. But repeating what the president said about COVID, flagged as medical misinformation, warning. That's correct?
Yeah, pretty close. Watching live stream, it was when Biden decided to bring kids back to school the first time. And they said, we've seen that this thing doesn't affect kids in the same way that. Are we live on YouTube, by the way?
I hope so. It looks like we are 3,000 on YouTube. And, dude, say it. I don't care. You can say it. We'll report the news. I just noticed that there's a lot of trolls who've made it past the 5 minutes of subscription and the 15-second slow thing. Okay.
So
Go
yeah,
ahead.
so he said, we're bringing these kids back to school. This thing doesn't affect kids in the same way. And we think with some precautions, we can safely get kids back in school because they need to be in school. And I said, hey, man, I finally agree with you on something. We've known for a long time that this has very different effects on kids than it did on adults, and then particularly much older adults to the elderly, who had a significantly higher death rates, where kids had almost a non-existent death rate. I think this is a great policy. This is a good change. That was the medical misinformation that I got tagged for. I'm agreeing with the president of the United States as he's on the podium saying it in that way too. It wasn't like this whole thing's fake, which, you know, would be fun to say, but I was on YouTube. I was very cognizant of the policy. I thought I was 100% within it. I have appealed that thing since getting it. I have kept pressure on my partner manager to appeal that, and there is no turning it back. They will not take it away.
Nick, if I take a guess at when that was, I mean, that has to be a little over a year ago, correct?
I can tell you.
Tell me, because I'm wondering, because I know as a matter of practical effect that the rules have changed such that what was forbidden a year ago is now not forbidden. And when you say, you know, the effect is virtually non-existent on children, well, I'll say you're slightly more reckless than me. Whenever I do it, I quote the medical officers.
Sure.
Kieran, what's his name? Kieran Moore from Ontario. So bottom line, that's your first warning. And when you get it, it never goes away. It's not a strike. It's just forever on your channel. So you're down to 3. Your second one, from what I understand, was, okay, first of all, that video traumatized me. It's the video that Andy No shared on Twitter, the Australian stabbing, a guy gets stabbed in the neck. I had nightmares about it, and I should not have watched it, and I did. And then I couldn't stop rewatching it because it's just, it blows your mind. I did not talk about that on YouTube, not because I'm afraid of the strike. It's just, it upset me so much. I didn't want to promote it. But what was the strike for that? Violating community guidelines.
Yes. So YouTube has a community guideline about violence and gore, and it says that you cannot show a violent or, gore video for the purposes of shocking or disturbing your audience.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you mentioned you didn't show it not because you're not scared of the strike. I wasn't either. In fact, it didn't even cross my mind that my showing of that video 4 hours and 20 minutes into a 5-hour live stream, a 40-second clip, which I then spent the next 10 minutes talking about the senselessness of violence, how young men's pride gets young men killed, how this type of thing is what we need to actually start focusing on in society, because these types of encounters never, ever need to occur, specifically discouraging violence and talking about the sad and horrific nature of how this stuff happens. Never in my life did I think that would get a strike as somehow be either promoting violence or for the sole purposes of shocking or disgusting my audience. I have covered police shootings. I've covered police stabbings. I've covered, George Floyd being, his death on camera. And YouTube, to be very clear, YouTube used to have a no death on camera policy, but they changed that policy after George Floyd specifically for commentary around these types of incidents to allow you to show this stuff, but to make sure you're not promoting violence in any sort of way. And no one could argue that I promoted violence or had any intent to shock or disturb my viewers with that one.
And not to give YouTube any ideas, but between that, which was horrific only in the simplicity of the incident. If anybody don't watch it, it's not going to make you better. It'll make you traumatized.
It's a horrifying video. You have
horrifying.
to be broken like me to watch that stuff.
Well, but then meanwhile, you got me to watch the trailer. What was it? The dumpster
defenders. Yeah.
The dumpster defenders, which I found to be equally horrific. But those types of videos, which people analyze, break down for legal purposes, nothing. So you've done that. You've done videos like that, no issue. But this one, for whatever the reason, got the strike. Now,
I was told a little detail in that if you'd like to know.
Please, because I don't want to hypothesize, but I could think of political reasons for why that would be more of a naughty video than the Dumpster Brothers, for example.
It's much less nefarious and much more stupid than that, in my opinion. The answer we received on this strike, which I have been appealing since I got it also, it falls off in 11 days or 10 days. The answer on that one was that there is an arbitrary amount of blood. And once that level of blood is exceeded, the video will get a strike regardless of context, regardless of commentary, regardless of anything. Now, this is not written in the policy. There is nothing about blood in the policy. And apparently this actually affects medical channels with frequency, because they will have some video showing like an educational video about a particular operation or whatever. And if there is an excessive amount of blood, whatever that is, it will get struck regardless of the quality of it, regardless of the commentary, the educational value. Nothing matters. Apparently, once you hit, I don't know, 2 pints or whatever someone deems is too much. It is completely pointless. And again, not written in the policy, which is extremely frustrating for us.
That might actually explain the difference between the Dumpster Brothers and the stabbing, which was all of his blood, apparently, because the dude died on the floor.
Yes.
So you get both of those strikes. That's within the Andy No video. It's relatively recent. So you got 2 of those. You're at 2, contesting 2, but no overturning the 2. Then we get into the politics and the juice of the next 2. I'm going to flag a few, not flag. I'm going to star some super chats. We get back to them later. And then I have to actually run an ad, Nick. I don't know who's going. I'm going to have to wait for
I love this.
So you get your first 2, then you get your third. And your third is now reverberating through the interwebs, both because of what you said and because of what you didn't say. What was said that you said, despite not saying it, even in the direct quote of the retweet of the actual video itself. The second one, or the third one, I'm sorry, now gets into this Keffels Kiwi Farm business.
Right.
Do you want to elaborate, or should I ask more questions?
I can elaborate. I'm very clear on this. So Keffels is a transgender activist who, when you review the Kiwi Farms thread of Keffels, they were after Kiwi Farms over this thread very specifically. And let me backpedal for just a second. Kiwi Farms is a website of people who do 2 things. They collect information about a subject, typically an online celebrity. I have a Kiwi Farms thread. It is over 815 pages long. People, they've collected various tweets and videos that I've done and posted them up there. The other thing they do is they gossip. They gossip about people. Some of the things they say are true. Some of the things they say are not true. Some of it is very, very offensive and nasty, and some of it is very, very supportive. It entirely depends on what people want. It's a place for them to discuss the subject of their choice, which is a particular online celebrity, generally speaking. And that runs the gamut of people. A whole lot of people have threads, and a whole lot don't, because they don't find them all that interesting or dramatic, and that's just how the internet goes. So Kiwi Farms was a target of Keffels because of this thread. Keffels organized an online community to go after their web hosting services, their DDoS protection, probably not directly instigated an illegal DDoS attack against Kiwi Farms, had it shut down, effectively took this website offline for quite a while. It is back up now, but it was a big problem, and has gone, Josh, the owner, has gone through great lengths to try and have to build new places to get this website back online. So I am a very, very strong defender of free speech. I do not think much of anything at all should be taken down outside of inappropriate images of children, stuff like that. I think should not be on the internet. But other than that, people talk about things, and that I am 100% fine with. On this website, there's a collection of tweets by Keffels explaining their history of providing hormone replacement therapy to minor children without their parents' knowledge or consent. Also, on the website is a history of, again, Keffels' tweets, not speculation on this one, of supporting a website that specifically details how to make in your own home hormone replacement therapy, specifically estrogen, out of various chemicals that you can acquire, to then coach children to inject it into themselves to conduct their own, I guess, chemical transitions, to prepare them for a medical transition in the future. Again, no doctor, no parents are involved. I take massive issue with that. And I said that I was a little hammered. Do you want?
I know what you said. I'll let you say it.
I said, if you are giving bathroom, or if you are giving hormone replacement therapy to children without their parents' consent, you go on the fucking wall, along with all the other pedophiles and groomers and everybody else. Those are the exact words I said. It's an expression I have used on my channel about 1 million times to express extreme disgust and distaste with someone. And I frankly believe that these people should be removed from society. That does not mean, however, that I am calling for any violence. I do not ever call for violence or for anybody to actually do it. I just think that these people who mainly impact children in this way need to be out. And I think a sane society would remove them through ostracism for their actions.
Now, I've heard the expression. It's maps to the wall, or maps on the wall, and the pun, for lack of a better word, is maps, which are the minor attracted persons, I believe.
Yes.
Where the meme, the pun comes from maps. Like, people have maps of the world. They put them on their wall. They put pins in there. I want to go here, here, here. And so that's the joke.
Yes.
The double entendre, to pull out my Québécois, is that the wall has secondary meanings, and that's intended for part of the pun. The legal defense, and I understand the legal defense, at least in the States. I'm not sure that this would be equally as true in Canada, where hate speech means something much different. The legal defense in the States is it's not a true threat. It's not even a veritable threat. It's a hyperbolic pun,
Idiom.
play on words, idiom. And, and it doesn't satisfy any requirements to meet the threshold of illegality.
Correct.
Like it or don't like it, Americans or other people watching from elsewhere, that's the defense. The flip side, Nick, is that YouTube is going to say, we're not an awful but lawful website, is it lawful but awful website? We set our own rules, and we don't even want that type of rhetoric. Strike 3. Or now you're at strike 2, but third hit. That happens on that particular soundbite?
I believe so. YouTube is never very good at providing you the exact soundbite or timestamp or anything that gets it. However, that portion of what I said was clipped without the following portion, which is really actually critical, in which I said, if you are 18 years old, I do not care what you do to your body. I do not care how you identify. Whatever you want to do is just fine. Go pursue your life in the way you want to live it, because I am, at the end of the day, a gay libertarian. I am a guy who believes in freedom to the maximum extent. And so if you want to transition, if you want to change your body, I don't care what parts you want to take off, add on, how you want to live your life, how you want to express yourself is literally no bother to me in any way. And I made that very, very clear. Now, what happened after that was a Twitter campaign in which the first part was clipped, and the person who saw it then retweeted it. This is Keffels, saying that I said Keffels needed to be put on the wall and shot, something I did not and do not advocate. Never have, no, despite the potential meaning of a double entendre. And I know a lot of commentary and discussion has been said around this. People say, well, we all know what Nick meant. I'm sorry that, like, my opinion is not as based as you might want it to be, but I really don't advocate political violence in this way. But that being said, the whole idea of putting things on the wall, again, has to do with ostracism and even display. Something like the sex offender registry is oftentimes referred to as the wall, like a wall of shame. But that's it. It said and shot. Now, I responded to several of these tweets and I said, I have never said that. I never did, never would say that, and do not condone this type of violence. None of that matters, because what happened next was a mass flagging campaign on this video with the misinformation that I suggested that this person should be shot. Actually, let me clarify. Not that I suggested, but that I stated directly that this person should be shot. I also received from that video 45 ethics complaints to my lawyer's professional responsibility office here in Minnesota for hate speech. All of them were dismissed without investigation, by the way, if anybody's curious about that. All of them were dismissed. But that is the reason for the third strike.
Okay, and now the flagging campaigns is an issue of its own. You've got a channel manager. I've got a channel manager, but I haven't spoken to the channel manager in probably a year, because that's how much I'm interested in that. But did they mention at what point the flagging campaign achieves its purpose? Because I think I was watching you with Allison, and some people don't really appreciate this, but that when you get a flagging campaign, sometimes there'll be a video like the Christchurch massacre, which will be online, and people are going to flag it immediately. And YouTube says, something's up with this. We'll talk about it later. We're going to take it down right now and look at it. That's the severity, the intensity that it was intended to respond to. Do you know what number, like what idea, roughly the threshold after which they say, taking it down and we'll look at it after?
I wish I knew the answer to that. I do not. What I do know is that when it happened, I had to inform my channel manager of the flagging campaign, because they do not have a direct line to community guidelines. In fact, the way YouTube is structured around videos and things like demonetization and guidelines, it's actually put into pillars, we'll say. Pillars or columns that are next to each other, but do not have bridges between them. And this makes a lot of sense, because what they don't want is they don't want people flagging videos for community guidelines and that automatically triggering demonetization. Because then if you were angry at a creator, you could get a sufficient number of people to just trigger demonetization, whether or not their content violated anything. And for a long time, kind of speculated on that. But I actually got to speak with some very high up people at YouTube a long time ago about this. And they explained the delineation of these departments. So your creator partner manager has a lot of contact with the monetization team. They do not have a line to the community guidelines team. So they don't know what's going on, and it takes a lot of effort to get that information from guidelines to then either, pass on to their creator. So I do not know what number that was, but I can tell you that there were, again, 45 bar complaints were sent on this. If you talk about the difference in effort between flagging a video on YouTube and then doing a bar complaint, which requires you to put your name, your address, your phone number, your email address on the bar complaint, and then write a description of what is going on, comparably, we can imagine that a significantly higher number of people flagged the video, but I'll never know what that is.
Let's just say it's like the Varus reports, which for every Varus report, you could assume 30 have not been filed. So let's just go 10 to 1. You got 500 people flagging a video in real time. YouTube takes it down, gives you the strike. And then we're going to get to whether or not that one. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And I was just going to say the amount of likes on the tweet suggesting that I be flagged was, I believe, in the tens of thousands. So, I mean, we're talking, this got massive exposure. It was shared by a lot of people, and particularly this weird lawyer from who's associated with Harvard. And this is a real nasty thing, actually. I won't mention that lawyer's name, but both they and Keffels encouraged people to file the bar complaints. Both of them said they would, and neither of them did. So they wanted other people to do that work for them, said they would do it, but they just never got around to it.
There's someone in the chat who's promoting an equally unlawful mass flagging campaign. I'm not even going to bring it up to bring any more attention to it than it deserves. Let me read some chats, and then we're going to bring this party over to Rumble. Not because we're going to do anything on Rumble that we can't do on YouTube for whoever is in that mass flagging campaign. And Nick, this is going to be the subject matter of the discussion as we get over there. I always took on the wall phrase as slang for police arrest because most times cops put criminals against the wall to handcuff them. I can tell you this, I've had the discussion with multiple people. Not everyone had the same immediate reflex as the proverbial execution wall. Not everyone did. And it just goes to show like your culture and your upbringing and your exposure and so on.
When this is like for brief legal lesson, this is why idioms are not used as evidence in a true threat. If someone is making a true threat through an idiom, you need a whole lot of other circumstantial evidence to support it. Because if it's an idiom, it's got a necessarily ambiguous meaning for somebody. And if there are multiple meanings to something, you can't say, well, this is definitely a true threat, because which one did you actually mean? So that's why, from a legal perspective, that's not a YouTube thing. That's why it's there.
Bear Lamb says, I was on the verge of winning the world's biggest nodes competition, and then Nick showed up. Love you, Nick. Well, I thought I was going to take that down. And we're going to get into this more on Rumble, but you know, my issue, people call me a milk toast fence, whatever it is. I don't even use idioms that could be misinterpreted that way, just to avoid all these problems, Nick. I put out a tweet about Jackson Ketanji Brown today, saying like, you know, allowing trans men, requiring them to register for the draft. You know, her mind is going to get blown when this gets to the Supreme Court. And it's like, no, mind blown could be misinterpreted. Someone can weaponize it. And so I went with something that couldn't be misinterpreted.
That's very cautious.
You're a different person. and all right. Drove home at the speed of science to catch this live. I'm going to read 3 more, then we're going to bring it over to
sure.
Rumble. Nick, what do you think about people calling Hogan to lead a back? We're going to get to this, people. We're going to get to this very briefly, because I'm not interested in promoting drama or creating strife within the community, but we'll get to that. Nick, can you do some kayak fishing? I spent $23,456 on Viva Super Chats and can't get them to put on a fish. Okay, then we got a status reserved here. Thank you, Nick. And get ready, people. The link is in the chat to go to Rumble. Childcare facilities post the photos of local predators on a literal wall for ease of identification. And Happy National Coming Out Day. And by the way, this may not be the best time that Field of Greens might want me to promote their products. We're doing it anyhow, people. Field of Greens, who has the courage to sponsor a channel such as mine. I drink this stuff. It is, what's the word, Nick? It's desiccated vegetables. That means not
sounds delicious.
It's dried and pulverized. It's like beef jerky of the vegetable world, but in a powder form. You mix like beef jerky into water. One serving of vegetables per spoon. Field of Greens, USDA organic. I've been drinking it. It tastes good. And if you go to fieldofgreens.com, promo code Viva. I like to support sponsors that have the audacity to support people like myself and Nick. But Nick, you might be one. I don't think you're one edge too far. I think it's advertising is about eyeballs and it's about quality product. And if you can do both, you're going to do good. Fieldofgreens.com, promo code Viva. Now, we're winding it up on YouTube, people, bringing it over to Rumble, where the first question I'm going to ask Nick is his third strike, and what the hell he was thinking. Let's remove it from YouTube, people. Bring it to Rumble. See you there in 30 seconds. 3, 2, 1.